a few weeks ago, we ran a story about a civil society organization that took online publication GroundUp and the National Lotteries Commission to court for publicizing information on the beneficiaries of the National Lotteries Commission. Now, the United Civil Society in Action, in an interview here on the AM Report, accused GroundUp of lying to the public about the lack of transparency, infringing on the rights of the beneficiaries, and stealing information from the National Lotteries Commission. Let's give you a quick reminder of that exchange.
Has for so long conflated issues, wherein they paint a picture, they lie to the public, they lie to South Africans to say that there is lack of transparency. We have to put it categorically clear. We are for transparency, we are for a lawful society, we are for a fight against corruption. However, corruption cuts across the board. When somebody steals information of beneficiaries without their consent and publishes it and puts their life in danger, then we have a problem. And this is where GroundUp has been criminal in its actions for many years, actually. It doesn't start now. We had to take action now to use our constitutional rights through jurisprudence to stop them in their tracks because they don't respect the law. What they do, you see, there are processes of acquiring information. There's nothing wrong with that. And the Act is quite clear. You can only publish such information if you got consent from the consent organizations and people. Number two, if Parliament or the Court of Law request for such information, it should be made available. So, but they paint a picture as if the National Lottery does not want to actually publish that information, but they're actually stealing the information.
Right, so as promised at the time of that interview, we had given an assurance to get GroundUp an opportunity, I guess, for a right of reply, and for that we're joined now by the editor of the online publication, that's Nathan Geffen. Nathan, thanks very much for your time and welcome to the AM Report. So you're accused of a whole host of things, among which is publishing information without getting the requisite permission. What's your response to that?
Morning, Ayanda, and morning, viewers. So just a bit of background. About a third of every lottery ticket sold is supposed to go to good causes to help develop the country. And that was the justification for the National Lottery when it came into existence 2 decades ago. That money for good causes is distributed by the National Lotteries Commission. Now, we've been reporting for the last 2 years on how this money has frequently been misspent. And how a network of people and organizations with connections to the National Lotteries Commission have been misusing money meant for good causes. So, for example, we've shown how a recipient used lottery money to buy his multi-million rand luxury house in Pretoria instead of on the project it was earmarked for. We've shown how a recipient of a lottery grant used the money to buy Persian carpets and service his Porsche instead of on the project the money was earmarked for. We've exposed how money has flowed to relatives of the COO of the National Lotteries Commission, and our projects to build care homes for elderly people, toilets for schools, and drug rehabilitation centers have never been completed, despite receiving tens of millions of rands. We've also shown how the National Lotteries Commission falsely claimed some of these projects were more complete than they actually were. So, in a nutshell, we've uncovered a huge amount of incompetence and corruption. And I urge viewers to go to our site, groundup.org.za, and to click on the banner at the top, which contains all our lottery reports. They can read our reports and judge for themselves on the value of what we've been doing. And although we've shown that millions of rands of public money has been misspent, we suspect that we've merely uncovered a fraction of the wrongdoing, and that the rot runs very deep.
Right, so Nathan...
So, yeah?
Sorry. Of course, we want to live in a world where the good guys win, but I imagine the question this morning is what you're doing actually legal? Because in an affidavit submitted by the chair of the UCSA, they're quoting Section 67 of the Lotteries Act, which I understand actually says for you to publish that information, it's either you need a court order or, in fact, permission from the beneficiaries.
Okay, so a couple of weeks, this organization called United Civil Society in Action filed this urgent court application against us to stop us from publishing information about lottery reports, lottery grants. Now, we've not ever reported that this organization has received lottery grants. And to be honest with you, we're wondering who this organization is, what its connection to the lottery is, and why it has any standing at all to bring this case. It's just come out of the blue. And the case appears to be based on a very poor understanding of the law, to put it mildly. So in particular, they take issue with an article we published on 25 May. And that article lists several organizations that have received money from the lottery. It also describes how they have failed to use those lottery grants properly. Our projects to build old age homes and drug rehab centers have gone unfinished. And in our research for that report, we were given a list of lottery recipients and the amount of money they received. Now, the National Lotteries Commission itself used to publish this information every single year. They stopped a year or so ago, presumably because they don't like us exposing their shenanigans. And they've refused to provide the latest list of the recipients of lottery grants. So they're hiding behind this regulation dating back to 2001 to justify this action. But yet, every year, up until 2018, they published the amounts and the names of the recipients. Now, all of a sudden, they decide it's unlawful and they accuse us of breaking the law. But they've been doing exactly the same thing. So United Civil Society in Action appears to believe we're not allowed to publish the names of these organizations or how they've spent their money. They're either misinterpreting the regulation, and that's actually what I primarily suspect is the case, or that regulation is unconstitutional. The Constitution says everyone has the right to access to any information held by the state, and this is unequivocally information held by the state. By publishing information about the misspending of public money by a state institution, we're acting in the public interest and within our constitutional rights.
Yeah, it obviously sounds like something the courts will have to make a pronouncement on, and I understand there is a court battle currently underway. Can you get us up to speed with how those proceedings are going?
Sorry, I'm struggling to hear that, the end of your question then.
Right, I was just asking if you can get us up to speed with how the court battle is going, because my understanding is that the UCSA has actually taken you to court.
Yes, so the case is supposed to be in court on the 7th of July. Both parties have filed their papers. I'm not sure yet if the National Lotteries Commission have filed their papers. And it will be in the Pretoria High Court over video link on the 7th of July. It's also possible that other parties who are interested in freedom of expression and the rights of the media to report things that are in the public interest may join the case.
Right, and certainly that's why this is becoming an important issue. Thank you very much for getting us into the picture and giving us your take on this matter. We'll, of course, touch base with the case as soon as it begins to get a sense of what the court decides should be the way forward. That, of course, is Nathan Geffen, who's editor of online publication GroundUp. Still